48 teams, 3 countries, one tournament that's about to break every record in sports history. By the time this World Cup ends, more people will have watched it than any event in human history. Bigger than the Olympics, bigger than the Super Bowl, bigger than anything that's ever happened on a football field. And it's happening right now, in 2026, across the United States, Canada, and Mexico. So let's break down exactly why this World Cup is different from every single one before it, and why even people who've never watched a football match in their life are about to get pulled in. Start with the number 48. That's how many teams are competing this year. For comparison, every World Cup before this one had 32 teams. That's a 50% jump overnight. Imagine if the Super Bowl suddenly let 50% more teams into the playoffs. That's the scale of change we're talking about. Why does that matter? More teams means more countries get a shot at the biggest stage in sports. Nations that have never played in a World Cup before are qualifying for the first time. That means new fans, new stories, new underdogs to fall in love with. The tournament isn't just bigger, it's more emotional. Here's something most people don't realize. This is the first World Cup ever hosted by 3 countries at the same time. Not one host nation. 3. The United States, Canada, and Mexico are splitting the tournament between them. Think about what that actually means logistically. 16 host cities, games happening from Los Angeles to Toronto to Mexico City, all in the same summer. No World Cup has ever asked fans, teams, and broadcasters to think this big. And Mexico City is about to make history of its own. It's going to become the first city ever to host World Cup matches 3 separate times. That's not a small detail. That's a city that's been at the center of football's biggest moments for over 50 years. And it's about to do it again. Now here's where it gets interesting for Americans specifically. The United States has hosted a World Cup before, back in 1994. But that tournament happened when soccer was still a mystery sport to most Americans. Stadiums were full, but casual interest was low. 2026 is a completely different story. Soccer viewership in the US has exploded over the last decade. Major stars have played in American leagues. A generation of kids grew up actually playing the sport in school, not just hearing about it. This time, the World Cup isn't landing in a country that's curious about football. It's landing in a country that's finally paying attention. Let's talk money, because the numbers here are almost hard to believe. This tournament is projected to generate more revenue than any World Cup in history. More ticket sales, more sponsorships, more broadcasting deals. Some estimates put the total economic impact in the billions of dollars, just from hosting alone. Why? Because North America has something no previous host really had at this scale. Massive stadiums, built for American football, that can be converted to host tens of thousands more fans than a typical soccer stadium. Bigger crowds, bigger ticket revenue, bigger everything. Here's a stat that puts it in perspective. Some of these stadiums can hold over 80,000 fans for a single match. That's more people than most cities' entire downtown population, packed into one building, watching one game. Now let's talk about the format, because this changes how the tournament actually plays out. With 48 teams, FIFA had to redesign the entire structure. Instead of the usual system, teams are now split into 12 groups of 4. The top teams from each group, plus the best runners-up, move on to a massive knockout bracket. What does that mean for viewers? More games, more chances for surprise upsets, more chances for a team nobody expected to make a run deep into the tournament. If you love underdog stories, this format is built for you. Here's something wild. The total number of matches this year has jumped from 64 games in the last World Cup to 104 games this time. That's not a small increase. That's nearly double the football being played across an entire month. And it's not just about quantity, it's about access. With games spread across 3 countries in different time zones, fans across North America have a real shot at watching a World Cup match in person, maybe for the first time in their lives, without flying across the planet to do it. Let's zoom out for a second. Why does any of this actually matter, beyond stats and logistics? Because this tournament isn't just a sporting event. It's a cultural moment. It's introducing an entire generation of Americans to a sport that the rest of the world has obsessed over for over a century. It's giving smaller football nations their first real spotlight on the world stage. And it's happening at a time when soccer in North America has never been more popular, more watched, or more talked about. So here's the real question. Is 2026 actually the biggest World Cup ever? Based on the numbers, the format, the hosts, and the sheer scale of what's being built, it's hard to argue otherwise. More teams than ever. More countries hosting than ever. More money, more matches, more stadiums packed beyond capacity. This isn't just another World Cup. It's the version of the tournament football has been building toward for decades. And whether you've watched 100 football matches or you've never watched one in your life, 2026 is shaping up to be the World Cup where everyone, everywhere, finally tunes in. If you're new to football and want the rest of this explained just as simply, stick around. This channel is turning the world's most confusing sport into the easiest one to understand. Subscribe, and let's get into it together.